Shalom. All right, cool. That's Twab. You got working now, sir. Yeah, cool. No, sir. No, sir.
Give us a one online if you can hear us.
Give us a one or a con if you can hear us.
So one online, maybe a 3 or 4 can hear us.
The mic on.
Yeah, this one's on.
Yes.
One.
All right. Start again. Con. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia.
Well, this man reigned from India to Ethiopia. This man had a ton of provinces, ton of places that he ruled from. Why? Because he's a king, and when you're a king, you have provinces. Like you rule over other lands and other countries. Same like with our oppressor today. He had a ton of colonies, man. He had the British. He had all the Jamaica, all them places, man. He had a ton of colonies. He had India. He had I believe he had China and so forth. He had a ton of colonies, man. Meanwhile, the Germans had colonies. They had Tanzania and all of them kind of places. So depending who's ruling over at the time, they would extend their reign to other countries and rule over other countries. Go ahead.
Khan, that in those days when the king Hazarias sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace,
Go ahead.
in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all princes and his servants.
So he made a feast unto all princes and his servants. Why? Because this heathen's feeling merry, man. He's making a feast to all his people and whatnot. Go ahead.
Khan, the power of Persia and Media,
Persians and the Medes is what East Indians, man. That's who they are, man. Go ahead.
the nobles
So
and
this man was probably this man was like around Iran and them places. Go ahead.
the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious
And this man
kingdom.
showed the riches of his glorious kingdom. Why was this man so rich? Because why? He had provinces, man. Meaning all these other places he rules over, they're paying him tribute, man. They're bringing him money and goods. And this is why our kingdom's going to be so glorious. Why? Because all these other nations are going to bring us riches, man. They're going to bring us gold. They're going to pay taxes, all of those things. The same way all these heathen kings have enjoyed their reign of every nation bringing them riches. When it's time for us to rule, we're going to enjoy our reign, man. Everyone's going to bring us riches. Go ahead.
Khan, and his servants, Salakia, and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present.
So after those days, he made a feast to all the people that were present, man. Meaning another feast. Go ahead. He's living it up. Why? He's ruling, man. He's ruling. It's his kingdom. When it's your kingdom, you can do what you want. You can throw feasts, throw parties, because you're in charge, man. No one can't tell you about 10 p.m. noise curfew and you're not throwing no parties today. No one can't tell you about lockdown and whatnot if you're in charge. You decide when there's a lockdown. And this man was doing what? Living it up, man. Feasting. Go ahead.
That were in the present, that were present in Shushan the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where were white, green, and blue hanging, fastened with cords of fine linen and
So
purple.
this man's kingdom was nice, man. He had all the setup with the gold, the royal colors, and all of them things. Go ahead.
To silver rings and pillars made, so like pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver, upon the pavement of red and blue and white and black marble. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold.
And they had vessels of gold, man, meaning their cups were gold. He gave them drinks in vessels of gold. And all these gold cups was diverse from one another, man. Which means what? These is handcrafted, man. All made different, diverse, one from the other. Go ahead.
Khan. The vessels being diverse one from another.
Being diverse one from another, meaning what? The tailor-made, handcrafted, man. Diverse one from another. Go ahead.
And royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law. None did compel.
And that law that they're talking about, that's not our law, that's their law. You see, like if you was in England today and someone says, oh, you broke the law, they ain't talking about the the law of the Israelites. They're talking about the law of the land where you live in. Like all these countries got different laws. Like for instance, in England, their law is you can't drive faster than 30 miles per hour. That's British law. British law is the certain things where, so when they talk about the law, this they're talking about the law of this East Indian king. They're not talking about the law of the Most High. But go ahead.
Quran Khan. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Also, Vashti, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house.
And now this was Vashti the queen at the time. Now, when it says queen, the reason it says queen is because heathens have queens, whereas Israelites don't have queens. So you will never see a Israelite queen because we don't have them things. As in our customs, our women are princesses, but they will never be queens. So heathens, they have queens and whatnot. That's why in the Bible you read of the Queen of Sheba and so forth. This is why you won't read. This is why you won't read in the Book of Chronicles that this woman was a queen, that woman was a queen, and so forth. You just read that you just read that they listen to the man in charge of them. They'll have visions and dreams, and they'll take them dreams to that man in charge, and he would decipher if their dream means anything or if it don't mean anything. Like you'd never have a woman ruling over men, man. The only way that would happen is if we been ruled by heathens and they okay. But us as a nation, us as a nation in our own excellency, dealing with the laws of the Most High, there'd never be a woman ruling over men and them men calling her queen and bringing her tribute and worshiping her. That wouldn't happen, man. Why? Because that's not a woman's place, man. But nowadays, society teaches you that a woman's place is to be a queen ruling over men. Men must bow down to her and so forth. When really, in our customs and our culture, it's not that. But living under the white man, because we're following his customs and culture, they believe that's attainable. So when you tell them, according to God, you can't be a queen, they then look at it like your Bible hates women. Your Bible tries to keep women oppressed because they've been bamboozled and brainwashed by the heathen. But go ahead.
Quran Khan, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine.
Meaning this king drank, man. He drank, and then now he's drank, is merry, is waved. Now he wants Vashti to come up, but she ain't gonna come. Like, and you know how it goes when you've had a little drink. He's had a little drink, and he wants the queen to come up, man, and so forth. He wants to show off her beauty and whatnot. But she don't want to come up. Go ahead.
Quran Khan. He commanded Mehuman.
Jump to verse 11 because that's
Quran Khan to bring Vashti the queen.
That's just giving you the names. So verse 11 will.
Cancer. To bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty.
So now they wanted to bring what? Esther, Vashti up to show her beauty, man. So this king was merry. So he wanted to show his beauty off, to show her beauty off to all the people in his province, man. All the people that was out there merry partying with him. He wants to show her off, like, look at this beautiful woman and whatnot. Remember, he's a heathen, bearing in mind. So they would parade their woman around like a sex symbol and whatnot. Whereas we wouldn't parade our woman around like that. We wouldn't have our woman on the front line twirling around, saying to other men, look how beautiful she is. Look how big her behind is. We don't do that because that's our woman. So that's just for our eyes. But this heathen king, he will show his women off to every man there, and then he'll cry when the next man has sex with her. You show your woman off to every man. Look how big her behind is, and then them men look, and then when they go and have sex with her, you're crying. Obviously, you put her up on that. You gave her that platform and to spin her around for the world to see, world to see her as a sexual object.
Exactly.
And so forth. But, go ahead.
Cancer. For she was fair to look on.
And fair back then just meant beautiful. Nowadays, our oppressors switched the meaning of fair. That fair means fair skin, meaning light skin. So nowadays, they will tell you that fair means light skin, when back then, fair meant beautiful. So a dark-skinned sister back then could have been considered fair, because fair just meant beautiful. Because beauty comes in what? All shades, light, dark. But our oppressors switched it that fair, which means beautiful, only applies to lighter skinned and themselves. So they will make you believe that a sister that's dark skinned can't be fair, when the origin word of fair means fair to look upon, you're beautiful, and so forth. It's got nothing to do with complexion. Because beauty comes in all complexions, but with the whitewashing and whatnot, they've made dark skin seem like it's ugly, and then lighter skin seem more beautiful. This is why every rap video and so forth, they tend to have lighter skinned women in the videos. Every job fronts, they tend to want to have lighter skinned people working on the shop front because the oppressors set it up that way. And really, beauty comes in all shades. But go ahead.
Kadwan Khan. But the Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's
So
commandment.
they went to get her. Them chamberlains, meaning what? Them men that work in his castle, man. Them men that work in his castle and follow his every order. He sent them to get her, and she refused to come up, man. So imagine the king tells you to come up, a woman to come up, and she don't come up. That's embarrassing to the king. Why? Because he's meant to have his kingdom on lock, man. He's meant to reign from Ethiopia to India, meaning everyone in them provinces is supposed to answer to him. And now this woman that he gave the title as the queen is refusing to listen to him. So he must feel offended because everybody's going to see that she ain't listening to him. And they're going to think, well, why should I listen to him? He ain't even got his woman in check, man. He's trying to get us in order and he ain't even got his woman in order. So she refused to come up. Go ahead.
Kadwan Khan. Therefore, the king was very wroth, and his anger burned
And
in
he's
him.
angry, man. Why? Because she's embarrassed him. Imagine he's married and he wants to show off her beauty. He's probably said to them, man, yo, Vashti, she's beautiful, man. Let me bring her. I'm gonna show you how beautiful she is. Sent his men, yo, go get her. And then his men come back without her. She don't want to come. So he's angry, man. That's embarrassing for him in front of the men that he wanted to show her off to, in front of the men that he wanted to show her beauty to. Now she ain't come up, so he's wrath and he's angry. Go ahead.
Kadwan Khan. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew the law and judgment.
So those wise men that knew the times and so forth, at certain times in history, those men that could read the stars and so forth, not worship them though. Like nowadays, people worship them. Like these men could like read signs and so forth. They would know certain things is gonna happen based off what's going on. So these men could do certain things. Same like with them three wise men who knew about Christ coming because of the star and so forth. Now they didn't worship it, but today people see them. People see signs and worship them. People worship the moon, worship zodiac signs. You have people tell you, "Oh, I'm a Taurus and you're a Pisces, so me and you can't get along. Me and you ain't compatible because you're a Pisces. Me and you couldn't be together because you're a Taurus."
Right.
All of those things is childish and it's stupid, man. Which would mean, by your logic, that would mean there's only 12 different types of people in the world, which makes no sense. Most people are different. You can't judge a man based on his star sign. That's nonsense and garbage. Go ahead.
Kadwan Khan.
That I'm working.
Can you hear me there?
One second.
I don't think so. Can you hear it? 1 2 1 2. Khan, can you hear me? You know. And the next onto him was Kashina, Sethazar, Amanda, Tarshish, Mez.
One second. Give me a 1 if you can hear the reader.
Khan.
Go ahead.
And Mimikan, the 7 princes of Persia, and Media.
They had all these the princes of Persia and this one. Go ahead. Like what verse you at? Yeah, go to verse 15.
Khan. What shall we do when the Queen Vashti, according to the law?
So they said, what should we do with the Queen Vashti according to the law? Like I said, this ain't our law. This is their law. Because these is what the Persians and the Medes, this is East Indians, Iran and so forth. That's where it was around that region. Go ahead.
Because she hath not performed the commandment of the king.
And they said, what should we do to her? Why? Because she ain't performed the commandment of the king. Meaning, when the king wanted her to come, she was supposed to come, but she refused to. Go ahead.
By the chamberlain and Mimikan answered before the king and the princes. Vashti the queen have not done wrong to the king only.
All right, for what everyone online saying they can hear the reader. All right, they can hear it.
but also to all the princes.
So they said she ain't only done wrong to the king, she's done wrong to all the princes also, and all the people in the provinces. They was like, damn, because she shamed that king, man. He's the king, he's meant to be in charge, he's meant to have everything boxed and in order, man. And she ain't coming up, man. So I can say it.
And what's heavy about that is that every man, they found out that if she did that to him, that's gonna influence her to make their wives do it too. So
Right.
every man's like, yo, like king, you gotta do something more. It's gonna be my wife next to me.
So he needs to lay down the law again, man. Because if she gets away with it, all these other women gonna think, well, she's the queen and she got away with it. She done this to a king, and my man ain't no king. Just a man that works a 9 to 5, and he ain't got that high position. Why am I gonna listen to him? She don't even listen to the king. So he had to listen. He had to get rid of that real quick. But go ahead.
And to all the people that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus.
Go ahead.
For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women.
And he said, this deed shall come abroad unto all women, man. Meaning all women's going to see that Esther didn't honor the king and Esther Vashti stayed at home and didn't listen to the king's commandment. They said, this is going to be noised abroad, man, which is going to give other women ideas, man. Go ahead.
So that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes.
Meaning they ain't gonna listen to their husbands. They're gonna be like, yo, she's a queen. She didn't listen, and you ain't no one special, so I ain't gonna listen either. They're gonna be like, she didn't listen to a king, and you ain't a king, so I don't need to listen to you. So all the men was around saying, well, damn, you need to get this woman in order or do something about it. Because if you don't do something about it, it's gonna be noised abroad, and our women's gonna hate all of us, man, and do these same things that they done to him. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's kind of like she's setting a bad trend.
Basically,
for
yeah.
the rest of the women them to follow.
Basically.
It's like when your woman speaks, your woman do something to you, and you haven't corrected her about it, and like she tells her friends about it, and then her friends start to lose respect for their husband. Like that. So that's the kind of thing they're trying to do.
And this is why, whenever you see a woman's disrespectful to her husband and so forth, you gotta keep that woman away from your woman, man. Because what will happen is that woman will say, I don't know why you're listening to your man. I don't know why you do everything he says. They'll try to pass that spirit onto your woman, and before you know it, you're having issues with your woman, not listening to you, refusing to do what you say. Why? Because she's seen too much Facebook, man. She's seen too much women disobeying their husbands on Facebook, man.
Right.
Any woman disobeying their husband on Facebook, you just say to your rib, you know what? I don't want you around her. Just remove her from your friends. She ain't no good example and so forth. Because what will happen is, before you know it, that will affect your household. Before you know it, your household will be out of order based off what they've read on Facebook. Oh, well, she don't do this for her, man. So why am I doing this for you? You need to get that spirit out straight away. You know, unfriend that person before that nonsense comes in this house. I ain't allowing that to come in this house. Hey, you might need the mic, you know. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Slakia, so the women, so basically, the lesson from this would it be like to check your wife's friends?
That's not really.
To have a look at, to make sure she's not mixing with kind of bad company.
When you say check them, what do you mean?
Not check them as in tell them up or anything like that, but check them as in like you're profiling them, making sure they're the right people.
Basically, yeah.
Right. Okay. I hear you.
But how it usually goes is, you know your woman. So if you know that your woman's can get led astray easily, you'd rather her just cut that person off. Whereas there's some women who won't get led astray,
Right.
and there's some women who are easily influenced by whatever they see.
Right.
So you have to kind of monitor it. Like, is my woman a woman that I want to be on Facebook? Is she a woman that I want her to be on Instagram? And then you have to decide whether you want her to be on them things, because it all comes down to what you decide.
So, Lucky, what if it's like just a question? So, what about if the woman don't want to listen to you? You know what I mean? Maybe she's of another nation or something like that, and she don't want to hear you. What would be the law on that? How would you address that?
She's still your wife, and if she don't want to hear you, you keep checking her and checking her and checking her until she hears you, man. Keep checking her until she hears you, and then one day, what's gonna happen? She's either gonna listen or she's not. But as long as you do your part as the husband, where you check her, tell her you're not going out like that, and if she refuses and goes out like that, that's on her, man. One day, guess what will happen? She'll get tired of you telling her what to do and then guess what? You ain't gonna hear from her again, man.
So, like, so
Mm.
the frame of mind the brother should have
Mm.
is to continue to correct,
All the time.
and not to
It-
kind of, she's not listening, so let's give up.
it's like your children. When do you stop correcting them?
You can't.
Same thing. So with your woman, you don't ever stop correcting her. You correct her so much that either she'll understand what you're saying and be like, you know what you said is true. Like sometimes they're not gonna listen, and then they're gonna go out, and then they're gonna come home, and then they're gonna say, oh, something bad happened to me, and you just be like, well, I did tell you.
Can't.
She's like, oh, I went out with such and such, and this happened, and you're gonna be like, well, I did tell you, and then things like that. They're gonna realize, you know what, this is why I should listen. Like usually you'll say something, they won't listen.
Can't.
Something bad will happen, and then you just be like, well, I did tell you, and you just keep correcting them. But obviously, if she has sex with the next man or she's going out with next men and doing whatever, that's not your woman no more.
Can't.
That ain't your woman, that's somebody else's woman. So after that stage, she's nothing to do with you. But if she don't open her legs to her next man and ain't going on trying to cheat and do all of those kind of things, it's